Guys, Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, I wanted to give you an update on Miss Butter here. So in my last video update on Butter, which was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I mentioned that she had been bleeding from this area. And I talked about how I put her on antibiotics before taking her to the vet, simply because it was the weekend before the 4th of July, and I'm in the US, so the 4th of July is like a big thing here, and all the businesses closed down, including the vets, because the vet that I go to is not an emergency vet. They pretty much only do like your typical appointments. So they weren't able to get me in until the day after 4th of July, so I started Butter on Baytril and doxycycline alongside infant Motrin for any possible pain. And I did that because I wanted to rule out any chance of infection. Plus, if we were dealing with something like a pyometra, which is an infection of the uterus, but which is very serious and usually requires a spay, that can sometimes be managed initially by antibiotics. And I wanted to make sure that if we were dealing with something like that, that I could kind of try and get a handle on it as soon as possible, because if she had to go under surgery, I'd want her to be as stable as possible. Anyways, when I took her to the vet, she had not been bleeding for a few days because she'd stopped bleeding after her second dose of antibiotics. And so the vet told me that basically we should just keep doing the antibiotics and use it as a sort of diagnostics tool, seeing if she started to bleed while on the antibiotics or after them, or if she just stopped bleeding altogether, because that would kind of tell us, are we dealing with an infection that's responsive to these antibiotics? Are we potentially dealing with something that's not an infection? Are we dealing with an infection that's responsive to the antibiotics and thus we don't need to worry about it anymore? And it would kind of just help to narrow down the possibilities without more invasive testing, which at the time he felt was not necessary because Butter was acting completely normal. She had no weird lumps or bumps. So it just didn't seem like a huge emergency. Well, it has now been about a month since she started bleeding, and she did her 2-week course of antibiotics, and she has now been off antibiotics for about 2 weeks. So I feel pretty confident in saying that she is A-okay, and that we were dealing with some sort of infection that was cleared up by the antibiotics that she was on. She has not shown any sort of concerning symptoms, no lethargy or lack of interest in eating or anything at all that could be concerning. And she's just acting completely normal, and that plus the fact that she has no more bleeding makes me think that we treated whatever was happening, and that whatever was happening was probably some sort of infection, maybe a urinary tract infection, because those are also pretty common. So yeah, everything with Butter is going pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. I was really worried we'd be dealing with something like a pyometra, which could involve a spay and could potentially kill her even with that because they get bad so quickly. But thankfully, that does not seem to be the case, and Butter seems to be doing just fine after her course of antibiotics. So, as far as I can tell, everything seems to be completely normal, and I don't think Butter will have any more problems. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this update. I just wanted to kind of tell you guys what's been going on with Butter, and just inform you that she is doing really well and does not seem to be having any more problems. So yeah, that is it for this video, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye. Oh, she's so cute. Little Butterbean.